I'm proud to announce this video is sponsored by Majin Hobby. Get the best tools for building your model kits delivered directly to your door and save 10% off when you use discount code PT10. Link in the description. Check it out. What's going on, everybody? Therapist here, and in today's video I'm doing a very special build for a very good friend of mine. And if you're out there, Merry Christmas. To all of you guys, happy holidays, and thank you guys so much for joining me today on this Christmas Eve. Now, one thing I want to stress to you guys, and one thing that I learned throughout this build, is that if you want to challenge yourself to do better and to push yourself as a builder, I suggest try building a kit for a friend. And that's something I've learned going through this build that I've done for my friend Andy. Now, what the difference is between building for yourself and building for a friend is that when you build for yourself, if you mess up, you're like, that's okay, it's fine, because you're okay with it. But you hold yourself to a higher standard when you build for a friend, especially someone you actually care about. So if you want one way where you can just kind of challenge yourself and push yourself to do better, I challenge you to build a kit for a friend. And today's friend that I chose today is Andy. So Merry Christmas, Andy. I hope you like the kit. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into today's build, which is the Sanctuary 3 model kit. Alright, so the kit's all snapped up, and I went ahead and disassembled it again so I can fit it into my ultrasonic cleaner to get it washed up for the smaller hull pieces. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on some of the engine sections, and what I'm going to do is for this build I want to try to add LEDs. Now this is my first time doing it, I haven't done it before, and I'm kind of excited. I want to do something special for this build because it's for a good friend of mine. So I'm going to go ahead and carve out some sections of the engines and see if I can fit some LEDs. I don't know how I'm going to achieve the effect just yet, but let's just kind of jump in and see how it goes. So for this part, I decided to carve out these pieces by hand using a scribing tool. And the reason I went ahead with this because I didn't want to use my Dremel because I thought it might damage the piece, and I don't have any way to get additional backup pieces. So went ahead, carved it out by hand. Took a little bit longer, but ultimately I was satisfied with the result because I knew I wasn't going to damage any other thin blades. Alright, so I finished cutting out the front section of this engine here, and as you can see, I got all the little tiny pieces cut out. But when I started to play with the LEDs, I noticed that it didn't quite look as good if I just had the light behind it. And if I get it close here, it just kind of has like a bluish glow, and it just kind of looks like there's like a blue light behind it, and it just kind of looks very hollow. So in order to get better light diffusion and to kind of make it look like more like it's a full engine that's glowing, I went ahead and just put a piece of white polystyrene sheet in there, and just look at how much better that came out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and line up the LED so it's kind of centralized behind it, so it kind of makes it look more like a blue glow coming out of the engine as opposed to like a single light just sitting behind just that propeller section there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut polystyrene sheets out for the rest of the engines, and I'm going to go ahead and do it for the back thrusters as well, so we can kind of get that same diffuse glow. So I'm going to show you guys a really easy way on how I did this. And the first thing I did was I cut out a piece of styrene sheet that's a little bit larger than the back of the thruster that I needed to be. And then what I went ahead and did was I took my compass, I kind of did a rough estimate, and just kind of spun the plastic piece around underneath so I could get that nice clean circular mark. Once that was done, I went ahead and cut out the circular piece that I made and then lined it up behind the thruster to see if I need to make any changes. If it's still too big, I can cut it down, but if it made it too small, I can just go ahead and shift it down to the next smaller thruster so I don't waste too much plastic. Once all the thrusters have their proper backing, it's time to pop all of them out, put them off to the side so I can go ahead and paint the kit in the proper color that I want it to be. Now, looking at the artwork, I felt like this was a very metallic color, so I went ahead and used Moto's Robot Iron. I picked this up from Robot Kai, really love their paints, and I went ahead and painted majority of the body in this color. One thing I like about the Moto paints is that once it's actually on, it actually kind of makes the pieces look metallic as opposed to looking like it has metallic paint on it, and that's one of the reasons why I chose the Moto brand. For the yellow, I went ahead and used Moto as well, and for the base primer, I used the Nazca Pink primer. It's not as pink as the Surfacer Evo, it's a little bit creamier, and I feel like that brings out a different warmth out of the yellow, so I preferred that over the Surfacer Evo. Once that was done, it's time to move on to the hand painting. Now, I definitely was a little bit rusty, and I probably should have taken a little bit more time to build up the layers, but ultimately I still think they came out pretty well for being my first time hand painting in a while. Once all the painting was done, it's back to the LEDs where I'm going ahead and I'm super gluing everything into place. Big shout out to Otaku Builder, a big thank you to him for his tutorial on super glue. I picked up some super glue as well as some of the accelerant, which really helped the process and making it a lot easier and making sure those LEDs stick quickly so I can move on to the next engine without having to wait for the glue to dry over a couple minutes. Here came the scary part of the build. My initial plan was to run all the wires into the main hull of the ship and then wire that to the main battery pack so then I can just have it all in one place. But after assembling both engines stacked on top of each other and trying to run all 26 wires through the armature, it didn't really quite fit nicely, so I went ahead and had to solder it inside the engine body just to make sure that I can run one nice clean wire through the armature. And at every step of the way, you need to make sure you test your LEDs so you don't go too far and then have to backtrack to fix something along the way. After final assembly comes the last and the most important part of a Sanctuary 3 build.
Oh crap, is you Hyperion? I heard all of you were robots and you eat metal out the garbage and stuff. Knew you wired death machines be come for me once Roland went missing. Now if you're here to kill me, you should probably know. You'll never take me alive, you robotic son of a bitch! That's alright!